Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. Here's the president of the Lake George Battlefield Alliance, John Denuzzo, and local historian Bruce Venter.
Well, thank you for joining our podcast. The first time we're doing this expanded version of Lake George Battlefield Moments, and we're very thrilled to be talking about, I know, one of Bruce's heroes, John Brown. Bruce, today is actually the anniversary of John Brown's death. That is October the 19th, 1780. What can you tell us kind of a backstory of John Brown?
Well, I've always found John Brown very interesting. My house on Lake George faces Diamond Island, which was a battle that he participated in, that he had actually initiated. But let's get a little background on John Brown first. He was born in 1744 in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and as a young boy, his family moved to Pittsfield, and he grew up in Pittsfield. He is a graduate of Yale University, and he was a lawyer, but he didn't study law at Yale. First, before he went to Yale, he went to study law and what they call Reed Law under Oliver Arnold. Oliver Arnold is a cousin of Benedict Arnold, and Oliver had married John Brown's sister. So he reads law, then he goes to Yale, then he becomes an official lawyer, and he goes out into the Mohawk Valley, out around Johnstown, where he is called the King's Attorney, which is basically the district attorney for that area out there on the Mohawk Valley. He comes back to Pittsfield because there's only one other lawyer in Pittsfield at the time. So in the 1770s, early 1770s, he is a lawyer. He's a patriot. He knows what's going on. He knows about the Boston Massacre. He knows about the Boston Tea Party. He knows about the Stamp Act. He becomes a legislator in the Massachusetts Provincial Congress because, as you know, the Intolerable Acts had done away with the official government in Massachusetts. He is noted for his intelligence, his physical stamina, and his ability to negotiate with people.
Was there anything in his background that suggested he might be a soldier or have a military streak in him?
No, not until the Revolution does he become anything to do with the military. He's a politician, and he gets the interest of Dr. Joseph Warren and Samuel Adams over in Boston, and they send him to Canada. And this is very important. They sent him to Canada, try to find out, take the temperature of the Canadians up there, both the English merchants that are there and any of the French nobles that are up there, and to find out if there is a war with Great Britain, will Canada come in on the side of the Americans? And he goes up there in February of 1775, and he writes a letter back the following month to Dr. Joseph Warren, telling him that, these guys are lukewarm. I don't think they're going to come in on our side. But he ends the letter by saying, if you have a chance, we ought to capture Fort Ticonderoga because of the cannon and the munitions and supplies that are there. And he says, I know just the guys that can do it. The Green Mountain Boys, Ethan Allen, the Green Mountain Boys.
Was this his idea first, or has that been floating around?
No, this is his idea as far as I can find out. Yes, this is March 29th of 1775, well before that story about Benedict Arnold comes about, where Benedict Arnold wants to capture the fort. But I'll get to that. So the committees of safety, the committees of correspondence in New England, they all know about this idea that Brown has. And so there's a fellow named Samuel Holden Parsons, who runs into Benedict Arnold in the end of April after Lexington and Concord. And Parsons and Arnold have a little conversation, and Parsons understands from Arnold that there are guns at Ticonderoga, which are badly needed at the Siege of Boston. And so he goes back and he organizes in Hartford a group of men to go up and seize these cannon up there. As they're moving from Hartford up to Pittsfield, Brown will join the group along with Colonel Easton and the Massachusetts militia, and they will get a hold of Ethan Allen in Bennington, and they'll create this idea that we should seize Fort Ticonderoga. Now, at the same time, Arnold knows about this thing, and so he's riding hell for leather up to Bennington. He misses seeing Ethan Allen. He goes to Castleton. He misses seeing him at Castleton. He shows up at Hands Cove, and he says, I am going to command this expedition. And he is a colonel in the Massachusetts militia by order of Dr. Joseph Warren. He has no army with him. It's just himself. And so he will cross with Ethan Allen, John Brown. John Brown will side with Ethan Allen and say Ethan Allen should command this expedition. And so he will endure the enmity of Benedict Arnold.
Is this the first time he and Arnold clash?
This is the first time that they know about each other, I think, other than by reputation from Arnold's cousin. And so they capture the fort and like that. Then Brown will go up to Canada and the campaign to try to capture Quebec. Arnold will be up there. Brown is promised a promotion by General Montgomery, who was killed on December 31st, 1775. Arnold will not honor the promotion. And so John Brown brings up charges. He wants him court-martialed for things that Arnold is doing up in Canada. Unfortunately, George Washington doesn't buy the idea. General Gates doesn't buy the idea. The Continental Congress doesn't buy the idea. So Brown is very disgruntled. He mulls around what's going to happen, and he just gets so disgusted that in early 1777, he resigns his Continental Commission. He was promoted eventually by the Continental Congress to lieutenant colonel, but nevertheless, he's very upset. He resigns his commission. He writes his list of charges against Arnold. At the end, he says, money is this man's God, and to get enough of it, he would sacrifice his country.
He predicted pretty well, didn't he?
And so in 1777, he's president. He knows that there's a problem with this guy Arnold. And so he goes back to Massachusetts. He becomes a colonel in the militia, and he will participate in the 1777 campaign. He'll attack Fort Ticonderoga unsuccessfully. He will bring a sloop and some gunboats down to Diamond Island. He unsuccessfully attack Diamond Island, forced to retreat, and then go back to the area called Vermont at the time.
How many men did the British have on Diamond Island? Why was it such a fortress?
Yeah, they had 2 companies of the 42nd Regiment of Foot, commanded by Captain Thomas Aubrey. I think maybe 35 to 50 men in each company. There's another source that said there's some Germans on that island, maybe 80 Germans. I don't know how they would fit on that island. I've been out there. It's like 200 yards long and about 40 yards wide. And it's a picnic island now. Anybody can go out there.
That'll be 150, 200 men, presumably?
I think the island was larger at the time. I think it really was because the lake was lower.
So Brown attacks and does not succeed.
Right.
Where does he resurface and what happens?
Well, he goes back to Massachusetts. He doesn't resurface until 1780. In 1780, Sir John Johnson and Joseph Brant come down from Canada on what they call the burning of the valleys. And Johnson and Brant, they burn the Schoharie Valley, they burn the Mohawk Valley. Brown is called up, what they call the state levies, and he brings a regiment up to the Mohawk Valley. He is in command at Fort Paris when Sir John Johnson comes along with Brant, and he takes his men out from the fort to engage John Johnson and Brant, and he is killed in the early stages of the battle. This is October 19th, 1780. Now, we have to remember that Benedict Arnold, only 3 weeks before that, tried to sell West Point to the British. So did John Brown know about that? I don't know. We can't tell. But the fact is, it would be nice if he did know before he died, because he was the guy that originally tagged Benedict Arnold as a traitor. Okay. And so he's buried out in Stone Arabia behind the Dutch Reformed Church. There's a nice obelisk to his memory. That happened on October 19th, 1780.
How far away from Lake George is Stone Arabia?
I'd say it's about an hour and a half drive.
Just like the Johnstown area, roughly?
A little bit west of Johnstown, okay. Yeah. If you know where Canajoharie is, Stone Arabia is on the north side of the river from Canajoharie on Route 10.
It's good to know that story of John Brown. Of course, 80 years later, there would be another John Brown, but that's kind of out of our domain here to talk about since he's not related.
Everybody should know about Colonel John Brown because he's involved here at Ticonderoga and Diamond Island, Lake George. He's a very interesting guy.
Thank you for the history lesson on Colonel John Brown.
Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. If you have any questions regarding Lake George Battlefield Moments, email info@lakegeorgebattlefield.org.